Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross and I was always told how to voice radio, so today we are looking at whether the new Beedrill, and I suppose more importantly, the new Kakuna from Crimson Invasion could actually lead us to a really good deck. So, first things first, let's start with Kakuna. Kakuna is the thing that really makes this deck work. For 1 grass energy, you've got the attack multiply. Search your deck for up to 3 Kakuna and put them onto your bench and then shuffle your deck. And if this sounds familiar, it probably should. It is Frogadiers water duplicates, with which we've been having quite a lot of fun for quite some time now. And water duplicates has been good enough to give us Greninja as a deck. And Greninja's been a very good deck for a very long time. Now it has a reputation for not always setting up as well as maybe it could, but that doesn't make it any less of a good deck. It has been a very good deck. The thing is that Greninja's got a lot of toys. Firstly, it's got the Greninja from Breakpoint, which can do a bunch of damage with Moonlight Slash, or do a bit of damage while blocking abilities with Shadow Stitching. Then if you Break Evolve, it gains Giant Water Shuriken, discard a water energy from your hand, put 6 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokémon. So essentially, if we're going to make Beedrill into a good deck, we've got to match this output that Greninja has. We've got to make a deck that is at least as good as Greninja. So what are the options we've got? Well, we've got a couple of Beedrills, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off, we've got the one from Crimson Invasion, and the attack we're really looking at here is Sudden Sting. 1 grass energy, 10 damage, not good. If this Pokemon evolved from Kakuna during this turn, automatic paralysis, automatic poison. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now we're looking at a deck which might be just a little bit better. With a choice band, you're doing 40 damage. You've got instant poison, so that's going up to 50 damage, and instant paralysis means they should be stuck in the active. Time it comes back to you, you've done 60. Now, I know that's not all that much, but if we can buy a turn, then we've got another Beedrill that takes a second energy, but is arguably quite a bit better. And the great thing here is we're going to get turns to set up, because Kakuna's multiply means that you've actually got multiple Kakunas out. So you can just evolve a new Beedrill every turn. You've got free retreat, so you can retreat into a new Kakuna evolve and then hit as Beedrill. And of course, we've always got Devolution Spray if you wish to switch between the Beedrills. You're not getting big one-hit KOs with the Crimson Invasion Beedrill. That's just not going to happen. But between the free retreat and the automatic paralysis and a little bit of damage, this is still very much an attack that we want to be worried about. But probably the better attack is on the Evolutions Beedrill, which as a side note also has free retreat, so that's quite nice in that you can switch between these Beedrills at will. For 2 energy, Swarming Sting. This attack does 40 damage times the number of Beedrill that you have in play to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So let's say you've got 3 Beedrill in play. That means you're doing 120 damage anywhere on your opponent's field. They've got a Garbodor sitting on the bench, knock it out. They've got a Alolan Muck sitting on the bench, knock it out. They've got an Octillery or an Oranguru sitting on the bench, knock it out. Now against something like a Metagross, you're not going to be able to one-hit KO a Metagross with this. But one thing you can do with this Beedrill is Guzma something into the active. Hope it sticks for a turn or two, and then while it's stuck in the active unable to retreat, you sit there using Swarming Sting, exclusively hitting the bench. So your opponent has got to draw a Guzma, got to draw a Floatstone, etc., or else they're going to be in a very, very bad position here. Now, one of the big downsides of playing Greninja is that that first Frogadier is going to go down. It's going to be KO'd, and then you're going to be sitting there basically a little bit sad thinking, great, now I'm a prize down and I've got to make a comeback. But actually here, this is a very good thing. This is actually what makes this Beedrill deck potentially great, is the fact that you do go a prize down. Because also in Crimson Invasion, we got access to Counter Catcher, and Counter Energy. And these, ladies and gentlemen, are cards that you can only play when you're behind on prizes, and these are the cards that turn Beedrill from an into a ooh. Because if you're not behind on prizes, if your opponent isn't taking a KO, you've got turns to attach that second energy. You've got time to draw into something like a Guzma, and then you can use Swarming Sting to its full effect. Because Swarming Sting is best when you can strand a Pokemon in the active and just attack the bench, while building up Beedrills on your bench, and also, if your opponent's stuck in the active, not able to attack, they cannot KO Beedrills, because the more Beedrill they KO, the less damage you're doing with Swarming Sting. Counter Energy counts as any 2 energy when attached to a non-EX, non-GX Pokemon, and you are behind on prizes. Your first Kakuna gets KO'd, you're behind on prizes, so you now attach a Counter Energy to an Evolution's Beedrill, and you are straight away got enough energy for Swarming Sting. And if your opponent doesn't take the KO on Kakuna, then you've already got an energy on there, so you just evolve and add a second energy, and you're good to go. Or maybe you use the Crimson Invasion Beedrill for a bit of paralysis fun time. You've then got Counter Catcher, and Counter Catcher is great, because it does the same thing as a Guzma, drags your opponent into the active. Okay, it doesn't give you a switch, but all your Beedrill have free retreat. But it's an item card. So you can play a Sycamore and draw into it while also setting up. Guzma's a pain because it's the only supporter card you get for the turn. You play a Guzma, you don't get any other cards. But Counter Catcher you do. And that's what excites me about Counter Catcher. You can Sycamore and draw into a bunch of cards, including your Counter Catcher, and then you strand a Pokemon in the active. So there's clearly a little bit of potential here. Kakuna to set up, 2 decent Beedrills, although the Evolutions one really is where you want to be going with this, but you could always just play 1 or 2 of the other Beedrill for some early game paralysis, give yourself time to set up, and then you abuse Counter Energy and Counter Catcher to strand a Pokemon in the active, and use Swarming Sting. Now, of course you can use Swarming Sting against your active Pokemon. But if you start trading Beedrills with your opponent, that means that you're going to be in a really awkward position, because every time they take a KO, you're doing less damage. Although I should point out Revitalizer here, great recovery if you're playing a grass-based deck. Although you've always got stuff like Brock's Grit and Super Rod, etc., if you so wish. Now, there are a couple of other Pokemon I think become really quite good in this deck. First of all, you've got Pheromosa. Now, Pheromosa isn't technically in Crimson Invasion, but it's in one of the Ultra Beast Premium GX collection, whatever they're called, which is coming out on the same day as Crimson Invasion, as a companion piece to Crimson Invasion. Although I suppose if we're being pedantic, and I do like being pedantic, it is technically not part of Crimson Invasion. And the attack I'm really looking at here is for 1 energy, a single grass energy. On the first turn of the game, you can do 30 damage. You don't need to wait to attack. You can attack on the first turn of the game, going first. And if you're against something like a Froakie, like a Staryu, like a Rockruff, you are going to be getting a 1-hit KO and winning the game straight away. Shining Mew would be another example. Now, not saying you're going to win a lot of games like this, saying it's worth it, because also, you don't have a GX attack in this Beedrill deck. There's no GX attack we're looking to use, so we might as well go Pheromosa. 2 grass energy, this attack does 50 damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. Okay, so if they've taken 5 prize cards, you're doing 250, the ideal situation for Pheromosa. You've taken 4 prize cards, your opponent has taken 5. You're then going to have access to Counter Catcher because you're behind on prizes, and this is a deck that really wants to play Counter Catcher. And you're then going to be doing 250 damage for 2 energy. Do remember that Counter Energy can't work for Pheromosa because it's a GX Pokemon. Slightly annoying, but you will have to deal with it. It's not going to be quite the surprise you'd want unless you're playing something like Energy Switch, which I'm assuming a lot of decks probably aren't bothering to play. Either way, the first attack is great, And we need a GX attack, and this is a really cool GX attack, so I am all in favour of Pheromosa. The last card I really want to mention here as a proper, I think it needs to go in the deck kind of card, is Octillery. Now Octillery doesn't have free retreat, and that sucks, but it does have the ability Abyssal Hand that allowed you to draw until you got 5 cards in your hand. But nowadays we've also got the Crimson Invasion Octillery, that for 2 energy, 40 damage, if you discard a special energy attached to Octillery, you do 80 more damage. 120 for 1 energy. As long as that energy is a counter energy and you discard it. Well, we're already playing counter energy. And Octillery is already a great option for this deck because of Abyssal Hand. And we have a crippling fire weakness. So this Octillery, given that it can get a 1-hit KO on a Volcanion or a Turtonator, I think is a great call. It won't get rid of Ho-Oh GX, which is a bit of a pain, bit of a downside, bit of a bummer, but I don't know, maybe you can strand something else in the active and spread with Swarming Sting until you're ready to go with Pheromosa. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, with Counter Energy and Counter Catcher plus the new Kakuna, I think Beedrill could be a lot of fun in the very near future, and I would heartily recommend you try it out. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. Tell me if you think this deck is viable. Tell me if you think there are other things that will make this deck even better. I would love to hear from you. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, etc., I think you should, but I'm a teensy bit biased. You can do so at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.